Hey, it's Adam from AFR Autoworks in Red Deer here, and today we're chatting with Chris Mammel. Chris Mammel has the fastest Mitsubishi in Alberta, and until recently was the quickest four-cylinder in Alberta as well. He's run, I believe, a 916, 917 at 150 mile an hour, and I'm going to ask him about it, and he's going to tell us all about his car and how he got into cars. And one of the things I really like about Chris's car is that a lot of it is self-built. And that's not something that's, that seems to be as common these days, especially when you start running, low nines and shooting for eights. So have a listen. Hope you enjoy. Just me and Chris having a chat. Cheers.
That was 100% duty on the wastegate. That was everything turned out as much as it would go. And if it made 60 pounds, I was fine with it. If it broke on 60 pounds, I was fine with it. It was the last pass of the day, so just put it all in and see what it would go. I really did find a turning point in the middle of this build in the red car. The progression of builds is when I decided to care a little bit less about if it blew up or broke. Yeah. Okay. Try to make it seem natural.
Yeah. Thanks for being here, Chris.
Yeah.
It's good to have you here. Chris Mammel. This is Chris Mammel, and Chris has a pretty cool 2G Talon. So, why don't you tell me a bit about your Talon? Or first of all, can you tell me a bit about yourself and how you got into cars? And
I have to go way back for that, but I guess I grew up in a car family. My old man has a 70 Barracuda, and it was a car show car for the most part. And grew up going to the racetrack, going to car shows, and doing all sorts of car stuff growing up back in the day when Calgary still had that.
So you grew up in the Calgary area?
Yeah, grew up in Airdrie. And I was just outside of Airdrie on a farm, and didn't have a garage at the time, so Dad's car sat outside, and I always remember getting it ready for him for car shows and all that stuff. So I started pretty young, and I just loved it right off the bat.
Yeah.
And I think probably for me, it really started for me turning into a car guy when I was looking for my first car. It's kind of funny because it really determined the path at which I'm still on right now, because I was looking at all sorts of things. I had a small budget in mind, and at the time what really seemed to fit my budget was Hondas. Could have been a Honda guy. Who knows what would have happened, but ended up settling on a 92 Plymouth Laser RS. It was a 5-speed turbo all-wheel drive. 4G63 power car, which I'm still doing it now. That was when I was 16.
An all-wheel drive laser. There's not very many all-wheel drive lasers.
No, those 1GB lasers were in all-wheel drive were pretty rare.
Yeah.
And it came with a whole bucket of parts, which was the leftovers from the engine and the interior. The guy I bought it from had a timing belt failure. He stripped the car completely down, realized he was in over his head, and it sat in the shed for quite a few years. And then one day he put it up for sale, and thankfully my dad was watching the market at the same time too, and he thought it'd be a good car for a country kid because it's all-wheel drive and standard, and thought it would be a good car for that. So we looked at it, and I didn't want it. I remember looking at it because he had a competition stereo that wasn't it, and he had the whole interior stripped out completely, not a single screw back in its spot. Every screw that came out was just thrown on the floor. Even the carpet was wadded up, thrown in the back, like it looked rough. Engine was in a million pieces.
So what year is this?
I guess it'd be 2006.
Okay.
Pretty close to 2006. I was 15 at the time, so I was very motivated to get my license and get a car going. So I actually had the car before I was even 16 and had a driver's license.
Oh, cool.
I wanted to drive. It was part of getting some freedom, being in the country. You know, I needed some wheels to get to town. So my dad talked me into it. He said, we can fix it. And I trusted him, and we got after it. And, had a local shop redo the head. And ended up needing some pistons because they ate up the valves. And
Oh, really?
so we threw pistons in it. Did everything in the block, in the car. Didn't bother pulling the engine right out. So everything came out the top, and ball honed it, put some new pistons in it, put a fresh head on it. I had to rebuild the transfer case as well, put the whole interior back together, put a big sound system in it, because why not? I was 16, had the sound system running before the car was running.
Yeah.
And then got my license the day I turned 16. The car wasn't quite ready, but worked tirelessly getting it done. Got that thing going, and then one day I was just looking for parts. Can't remember what it was. Scrolling the internet looking for parts, and came across a DSM top form, car form back in the day, and realized how capable of the platform the car really was. With some minor mods, you could make pretty good horsepower. And so started down that path. My dad, I guess, already knew. He knew what the car was capable of. Was hoping I didn't find out soon, but it ended up happening, and that car got some minor upgrades, fuel pumps and boost controller and some gauges. And at the time, it was pretty fast for what I needed.
Was it a basket case, like with everything in it? Because most of those cars turn into basket cases. Like finding a clean Talon, a 1G or 2G, anything is impossible.
I mean, that one definitely came with some issues, but once we put the inside back together, and like it was mostly stock. It wasn't overly modified when we got it. It was just blown up. So this one wasn't too bad, but I've had some basket cases since then. Yeah. That car lasted for about a year and a half or so, and I sold it to a guy who actually ended up being a friend in Edmonton. Yeah. And he pushed that car a little bit farther than I did, and I always wanted the 2G. The 2G body style was more appealing to me. So pretty much as soon as I realized what a Talon was, and I was looking for a 2G, I just wanted one so bad. So I ended up getting one from Ontario, and that car was trouble from the get-go.
Yeah, it would have been.
I ended up with another car right after that from Ontario as well that was heavily modified. It was built by Magnus. I thought it would be reliable, but it was a car that had been through many people's hands before Magnus. It was just the last ones trying to patch it back together, and it was okay. But that was the car that I really started modifying. That was a 97 TSI all-wheel drive. It was white and black. That's my favorite color combination. Had a carbon fiber hood on it, and I loved it. But I guess that car was the first one that I had to do a full engine on. I pulled it apart because it had really bad blow-by. Yeah. As soon as I put a 3076R on it, and like 18 pounds loose, and blow the dipstick out every time. And I just kept strapping the dipstick down and keep it on going, and then eventually it started smoking. And
so, how did you end up going with a DSM instead of a muscle car? If your dad was in muscle cars,
I don't know. See, I think Dad wanted me to get something that was reliable, which is hilarious.
Fuel efficient.
Yeah, fuel efficient, all-wheel drive. You know, he thought that would be good for a country kid. You know, you can't find an all-wheel drive Barracuda, which would be cool. But
that's true.
I think that was kind of his vision for me. And plus, I was paying for most of the car. I think I paid for the whole car. Dad ended up helping with some of the repairs that on the first one that we needed to get the car back on the road. So mostly budget, honestly. Yeah. That's actually been kind of the trend that stuck with me since I started doing this thing, was trying to do everything on a budget. Yeah. So I mean, I'd still like to build a muscle car. Yeah. That's kind of something I would like to do with my dad. I'm still trying to convince him to rebuild that CUDA.
Yeah,
him and I
but he
did
still
a
has it.
project. He still has it. Yeah, it's he won the World of Wheels, best in his class 20 years ago.
Yeah.
But spent too many years outside, so it's ready for another restoration. So I'm trying to convince him to go together 50-50 on that one.
That'd be cool.
It'll be my car one day. But
Yeah.
I'd still like to do something like that, but I mean, I'm having a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Doing what I'm doing now.
So you put a 3076 on this other car.
Yeah.
Was that tuned with ECM link
Oh,
or
no.
active translator or anything like that? Or what were you
It
doing?
had an SAFC on it.
Yeah.
Not even an SAFC2. The original
Yeah.
SAFC, I had an innovative wideband that was like a handheld unit. It was like this big, and I just threw that on the floor. This lived on the passenger side floor of my car, and I had no clue what I was doing. With the SAFC, you could just do fuel trims. You couldn't do anything with timing.
You could do different RPM ranges, I think.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But I just guessed like a lot. Yeah, I wasn't sure what I was doing. If it seemed like it wasn't on it, if it wasn't happy, I'd put more fuel in it. If it didn't, if it wasn't happy, then I would take a little bit of fuel out, and if it looked like a nice
You did have a
wideband, I did. Sorry, the wideband
Yeah.
came quite a bit later after having some issues with it, but the wideband helped. You had to have somebody. I remember doing probably 100 pulls with my dad in the car. Him watching the wideband as it goes through the RPM, and me just trying to keep it on the road. And
So which model of wideband was this?
I think it was that LC1.
Yep.
But one of the original ones, like it was an old unit when I got it.
So I bought, I think it was an LM one
Okay.
with no display on my first car. It's actually a compound out there still.
Okay.
And I started tuning it with water meth and the boost controller and stuff like that. And it would actually log to my laptop. So that was really handy because I would kind of see what RPM I was starting to pull at.
Okay.
And I would hit the throttle and hit record at the same time.
Okay.
And then, kind of like count the seconds as I went through. And then kind of review it on your own later on and get a rough idea, But
I feel like this unit that I had probably could have done that.
Yeah.
That's.
if you have a passenger with you, make things a little easier maybe.
I didn't really know what I was doing at that time,
Yeah.
to be honest. My friend who sold me the Turbo, I bought it because it was big. It looked cool. And I realized it doesn't fit with stock manifolds. And it's like, it started with an eBay manifold. And then intercooler piping that was like Home Depot scraps, rubber couplers from Home Depot, and then those would melt, pop, or burn. Get silicone ones from people. And at that time, most everything I was buying was coming from a shop out in Ontario called RTM Racing. Unfortunately, he closed the doors now. But I would call him and he would help me with some stuff. Like, oh, you need this or you need that.
Yeah.
He was really helpful in the years. He was a really good guy to work with.
Was he a Evo or DSM sort of specialist guy? Or?
DSM's Bruce in his teeth, but he did DSM's worked his way into Evos, a little bit of STI stuff, a little bit 3000 GT stuff, but I think DSM's was really the main thing. He built a lot of little custom parts for DSM, so I think that was kind of where his heart was at. He was always good. I'd call RTM Ziggy down to the phone. I'd say, hey Ziggy, it's Chris. And he'd go, oh, what'd you break this time? He was good. Sometimes he would ship all parts that I need next day before he even took my credit card for it. He was a good guy.
I definitely think like the shop atmospheres have changed a little bit over the last 20 years, I mean, really, that's 2007, just about 20 years.
Yeah.
But 17, 18 years ago, everybody bought all their parts from the shop. Like, even if you bought oil, you'd usually go down to your local shop and buy oil from them because they would have X brand of synthetic that, you would trust should be good in your car. And, you try to, now a lot of things are done online and definitely, it just seems like a little bit different environment for shops, but the business is a little bit different too, right?
Yeah, I think a lot of people building their cars on the go. Everyone's so busy, and they've got a coffee break at work, and instead of driving down to a speed shop, they pull up their phone and order it from wherever's available these days. So I think that's kind of what it is. This life's gotten so busy. I know that's how I end up doing most of my stuff too.
Yeah, I mean, that's why we started an online store. Is even just for our own customers. Like I'll see lots of our online orders who come through from our own customers. I mean, they're all our own customer, I suppose, but like someone who's been an established customer for 7 or 8 years, all of a sudden I'll see an online order from Joe.
Yeah.
Like, oh, didn't even bother calling the shop, just ordered it online, you know. But at the same time, I think we all have a tendency, at least I do, of shopping on my phone or on my computer late at night on the weekend.
Oh yeah,
You know,
for sure.
and when you're sitting there obsessing about your car, because I don't obsess about my car during the day. It's on the weekend or late at night. I'll be thinking about, I can do that or I can do this. And you're searching something, all of a sudden you're like, oh, I do need that. I just need to do it. And you just,
I mean, I found myself, just a couple days ago out the way you're like, I need that cap. I gotta write it down, and then instead of writing it down now, it's like pull up the phone, order it. Yeah, it's coming.
Yeah.
It'll be on your porch in a couple of days.
Yeah.
Yeah. So certain things, you can go the cheap route, like an hand fitting or a cap. Some of that stuff you want to buy the quality stuff, but some of it you don't need that.
I have a hard time imagining an 8 AM cap screwing up.
Yeah. So that's why I bought one from Amazon.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah. Hopefully it keeps the fuel in the bottom of the fuel cell.
Yeah. I'm just checking, make sure this camera's still working. Yeah, it's still going.
Yeah, so that 97, that was kind of the first car that I dove into modifying. And when I was all said and done with it, I mean, I used to like to claim it made 500 horsepower, but knowing what I know now, 500 horsepower is actually quite a lot.
Yeah.
And I don't think it did. It was like probably 25 pounds of boost on a 3076R. Realistically, maybe made 350, 380 if I was lucky.
Yeah.
And I remember one time being so humbled, I took that thing to the track at in Calgary.
Yep.
What's it called?
Race City.
Yeah, Race City. It's been so long, blank on the name. Took to Race City. I was in the pit line for my first pass, and somebody leaned over. And I was like, "Oh, it's pretty cool." And told me about the car. I was like, "What do you think it'll run?" I said, "Oh, I'll probably run it 12.0 or 12.5. That's what I think." And then it went out the back at I think a 14.2 at 112 miles an hour or something.
112 mile an hour is pretty good. Like even 112 mile an hour, it's jamming pretty good.
I think it was like a 1.860 foot.
Yeah.
And that was it was a manual car.
Yeah.
It was the best it drive. It had the worst Excetti 3-puck solid hub.
Yeah.
Just a nasty clutch to try to drive. So I'd rather bog or stall.
Yeah, I was going to say, everybody thinks that all-wheel drive is going to be so good to drag race with because it's got so much traction. But leaving with an all-wheel drive car is, for me, it's a lot harder than a front-wheel drive or a rear-wheel drive car in a stick shift situation.
Yeah.
Because it's really easy to just have, to bog the car or slip the clutch a little too much, whereas with a front-wheel drive or a rear-wheel drive, you might get a bit of tire spin.
Yeah.
That doesn't happen, unless you're running, really cheap tires, An all-wheel drive car, really easy to bog and ruin your 60-foot, bad 60-foot.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, in a bog and run slow, or you'll slip the clutch through the 60-foot and run slow.
Yeah.
You got to get it right.
Yeah.
You got to get it right. I mean, from that car, that 97, is kind of where I really started modifying things. And then if it had been a clean chassis, I think it would still happen.
Yep. So what year is this now?
So I guess would be, I graduated, this would be like 2010, 11-ish.
Yeah.
I got this 97, probably makes 350 wheel horsepower.
Yeah.
And I took that car and I did one engine on that thing, and that was just refreshing. And it was the same pistons, re-ringed it.
Yeah.
Put another head on it, cams built, another turbo, a couple of clutches. That thing went through a bunch of transmissions because those cars, the Juji Towns, they like to go up center diffs. So I had a bunch of transmissions on that. And my dad was there through it all, but sometimes it would, that's where I really just learned to start doing stuff. If you don't know what you're doing, just start doing it and figure it out. And a couple of times I was changing the transmissions 3 times in one day because I put it in wrong and forgot to put the pivot ball in the clutch fork. I remember that was one.
Yeah.
And put that back on, and then something was wrong with the shift linkage. And like, you forget what's going on. You miss something, you take it out again, and then eventually you'll get it right.
Yeah. So you had a hoist at home? Or?
No, that's all on jack stands around my back.
Yeah.
That all-wheel drive transmission. I was a small guy. Put that all-wheel drive transmission on my chest, roll underneath with a creeper, muscle it in, and hope it's not going to fall on your face. Try to get the splines to line up on everything, get it wiggled in, get
trying not to
started.
damage the release bearing.
Oh yeah. I did that quite a few times with that car, but
they have a little better clearance on those than the Evo. Do you need to drop the subframe?
Nope, you can wiggle it out.
Yeah.
The 2Gs, they've got 3 mounts on the transmission and 1 on the engine.
Yeah.
So you can take all the 3 transmission mounts out, and you could wiggle the engine out a bit. You're able to do the subframe, pop the axles. By the time I was done, I could have a transmission on the floor in an hour or so.
Yeah.
Maybe a little better than that, but everything else was what took so much longer putting back together, filling with fluids.
Yeah.
I did 3 times in one day when my folks were out of town one time because I kept making mistakes. Put it together, try to drive, doesn't work.
Yeah.
Again, go pretty fast again. But that car started rusting really bad. It was rusty in the rocker panels and rear corners, and it found out that it was also an Ontario car. I did buy it in Calgary, but it started in Ontario. Came with a bunch of paperwork. If I'd have looked at those and made that.
They like to rust up the strut towers too.
Oh yeah. Yeah, that one had good strut towers. So when I realized that one was so rusty, I started looking for something clean. I wanted to start with something no rust and non-modified, because that white car, the 97, came heavily modified, and it was a problem from the get-go. There was always some trouble. And so, you're fixing somebody else's wire fixes because they were fixing someone from someone's before, and there were so many issues with it that it was just tiring.
The Talons were one of the first 4-cylinder cars that really started getting messed with, and most people that were working on them had no idea what they were doing.
Yeah,
and
myself included.
Yeah. So typically, if you got a modified Talon, it's a train wreck.
Yeah,
because for North America, I think probably some of the worst work we've seen, that I've seen in the shop forever has been Talons.
DSMs.
Yeah, DSMs. And, you might almost think it'd be Hondas, because they were maybe a little more entry-level price. But a lot of guys would, not being turbo, I don't know, it just...
It's probably the turbo all-wheel drive platform that was so appealing to people for modifying it.
Yeah.
So you take a car like that, that's already a capable platform, and then boost controller and some injectors later, it's good to go.
Yeah. What's up, Alan?
Still talking a little bit about that 97. We started to rust.
Yeah.
Decided that it wasn't worth putting any more money into, and then I found the 98 that I have now. I found it in Edmonton. It was completely rust-free.
So,
it was perfect.
How old were you when you were doing this? 20-ish?
Yeah, 19, 20.
Yep. So you're a farm kid, though?
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah, I find... I was raised up in, a logging family. Kind of grew up in the shop and had an understanding of how you can take things apart and put them back together, right? And fewer and fewer people, have that mindset anymore. And one of the things I really like about your current car is that you built it yourself, right?
Yep.
90% of it.
Good, yeah, a good 90 or maybe even more.
Yep. So you're 20 and you're on your third DSM.
Yeah.
And you've worked on all of them.
Yeah.
And you're playing around with wideband and SAFCE and screwing around.
Yeah.
Instead of playing video games.
Yeah. I wasn't allowed to do much for video games. So I had to find ways to entertain myself.
That's funny because I wasn't allowed to play video games either.
look where I got this.
It was like if I ever wanted to play video games, my mom was like, "You got to buy your own system." And at the time, I think a Nintendo 64 was $400 and something or something, you know.
Yeah, something like
And I wasn't going to go spend $400 on a Nintendo 64, you know.
Me neither.
And I was pretty confident, even if I did go spend my own money on one, that I probably would be allowed to play it.
Yeah.
You know, until I left home, right?
She said that.
Yeah.
Wanted you to buy it, but
Yeah.
we're gonna be allowed to buy it either.
Then I'd have to buy my own TV too.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
You know?
True.
Yeah.
I don't have
Then I'd have to use my own electricity, plug it into my own house.
Sure. Yeah. That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, a PlayStation would be a lot cheaper than the cars that we're building.
Oh, definitely.
But
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't have any regrets.
Yeah.
I like where this road has taken me. Some days I don't like it. Some days I'm not that happy.
Yeah.
But that's kind of where I'm at right now. I'm in the middle of this project, and I got so many loose ends, and I start thinking about the deadline coming up. And I was like, I better start getting after it.
Yeah.
Run out of time again.
That's kind of where I'm at this year too. Like, actually, my engine's right over there.
Yeah.
You can kind of see the back side of it.
Yeah.
And I'm counting down how many, we got a few months till summer, but then you go, well, I've got kids' soccer tournament next weekend. And, you start counting the different things that are happening each weekend. And you go, wow, I've got 4 weekends to rebuild my fuel system.
Yep.
And I got that mechanical pump set up for the drag car, so that's got to go on there, which needs a different fuel tank and different fuel lines, and it's going to need a different fuel filter and a different regulator. And I still got to go through the motor because it needs some love now.
Yeah.
And I've got a lot more than 4 weekends worth of work to do before the car's supposed to be driving.
For me, I did the same math because I'm gone 50% of the time working away from home, so that cuts my weekends in half right off the get-go. Unless I bring stuff up with me, which I do sometimes. I bring the back seat of my truck right now. It's got a bunch of engine parts in it that I bring up there and start sizing bearings and do all that stuff for the motor I have to put together now.
So you sold this 97 and you got the car you got now.
I put the 97 up for sale, and before I sold it, I wrecked it. So, yeah, that was a hard one.
So how'd you wreck it?
I was going to Olds College at the time. It was a crazy winter freak storm, and I'm a 20-year-old kid with an all-wheel drive car with good winter tires and driving too fast. The first major 90-degree curve from my parents' place, I turned the steering wheel and it just went straight off. I turned the wheel.
Did it roll or?
No, I turned the wheel. It wasn't turning at all. Ripped the e-brake. I got into the throttle. I started making the corner, and then went off into the ditch. Could have rolled, and then I stuffed it into 2 trees. And it was totaled.
But you were fine.
I was okay.
Yeah.
A little bit sore from that. I mean, I was probably doing 80. I probably should have been doing 40. It took me a few years to be able to admit that it was my fault. I claimed bad roads for the blade. Really, it was just me going too fast. So I parted out a bunch of stuff. Kept some things, parted out a bunch. And the worst part about that was I had that car listed pretty high. And the day that I wrecked it, I got a phone call from someone. They're like, I'm coming with cash, I'll take it. And I was like, well, bad news. Bad news, it's destroyed. So that was a tough bill to swallow.
Did you have insurance or no?
Just POPD. Lost everything on that one.
Well, when you're 20, insurance is expensive too.
And I don't know. And a performance car. Worth it. The insurance company would have wanted to know what was in it. It's completely stock. If they ask. So at the time I already had the red car that I have now, the 98 TSI all-wheel drive. I bought it from a guy in Edmonton. It was a super clean car, totally stock, had an intake and an exhaust, but that's totally stock. So a good platform to begin with. So after I kept what I needed from the white car and sold some other stuff, I began the process of about a 3-year build because at the time I was going to college. And I didn't have a bunch of spare money. I was delivering pizza to pay for car parts and insurance and all that stuff.
Did you work on the farm or?
No, mom and dad, they got an acreage out there, so they didn't do any of the farming themselves. But like growing up, I worked for my neighbor's trucking company. That's kind of where I got started in the mechanical side of things. And I worked for him for many years. Geez, I can't remember when that stopped, but right after high school, I went to did some construction for my uncle, realized that's not what I wanted to do, and then ended up in college for a landscaping diploma that I didn't end up doing either. But in the end, it's what got me to where I am now. I finally went to trade school, became a millwright, taking stuff apart. It was a good career for a guy like me.
So now you're a millwright and you work up north?
Work up north. Yeah, I'm 2 weeks on, 2 weeks off, contract millwright, working for myself. Do a lot of gearboxes, pumps, and motors, and maintenance, air compressors, stuff like that.
Yeah.
So it's a lot of hands-on work. It's just exactly where I figured I'd end up.
Yeah.
I didn't know what I wanted to do going out of high school.
So do you find that working on your car is far enough away from your daily work that you're excited to do it when you get back?
Definitely. I always wonder, guys like you, car guys have their own cars to build, but they're working, running the shop, building everybody else's cars all the time. You're just tired of it when it comes to time to work on
You know what? I have to. There are weekends where I'm tired of it, definitely. I find when I actually make the time to get here on the weekend, I get excited about it.
That's good.
But I was kind of showing you my old bike earlier, and I find that the bikes are a little bit easier because it is just far enough away from what I was doing 2 hours before.
Yeah, exactly.
To go spend a little bit of time on it. But I try to give myself what I do on the drag car and stuff. It's usually something I haven't done before.
Yeah.
So that is the nice part about it, right? So
some learning.
Yeah, it's not like I'm doing exactly what I was doing during the day. It's R&D, and it's usually something I haven't done in a customer car before, right? That's kind of the point of it, right?
Well, I guess, So you use the shop you use the shop car for advertising and the race car for advertising.
And learning, right? So if it does make it a little easier, when I decide I'm going to turn it up a little bit more, it's like, well, if it doesn't work out the way I want it to, I'll learn something. And that'll be of value, right? So either way, like it's a win or learn thing. And
win or learn.
I'm excited about learning anything, right? So if I have a customer that comes to us and says, I want to make X amount of power on a Subaru, it's like, well, chances are we've already made, we don't have really any customers come in with 1,000 wheel.
Sure.
But if someone comes in and says, I want to make 800 wheel, it's like, well, this is what we can do for you. And this pump's going to get you there, and this is what we're going to do with your fuel system. This is what we're going to do with your short block and head gaskets and studs and cylinder heads and everything. It's like, this is exactly how we're going to do it. I know it's going to work. On my own car, it's like, well, we've put it on 48, 50 pounds of boost before. It should be good for a little bit more.
We'll see.
We'll see.
We'll try.
And if it's not, well, then we'll fix the problem, right? Might take a while, might be expensive, but I thought we'll get there.
I really did find a turning point in the middle of this build in the red car. The progression of builds is when I decided to care a little bit less about picking up or broke. I used to be so paranoid. I'd shop around, buy the parts that I think that I needed, try to get them as cheap as possible, put the car together myself, and I would be so nervous if it would break or blow up. And then I started not even enjoying it. It became kind of more stressful.
It's stressful.
Yeah, it was stressful. And so then, I don't even know exactly when it happened, but maybe once I started making some real good power, and I realized things are going to break. And I went out every single time I went out with that car with the mentality, I could blow it up. I don't care. And it started working even better, honestly, with that kind of mind frame. The car just seemed to work better all the time, and it was less stressful. It was more enjoyable. It used to be a standard car. I think that's kind of one of the biggest turning points in the build of this is it was a 5-speed clutch car, and it broke constantly. And I, would like to blame that on the fact that these cars have fragile drivetrains, but I'd say 80% of it was me. not being a good driver of a
Yeah.
manual car with like axles, diffs, transfer cases, center diffs in those cars like to blow up.
Yep.
I went through all of them 100 times, and it was a nightmare, and I hated it. Every time I drove the car, I felt like the transmission would have to come out, or I'd be swapping axles, and it sucked. It was actually my good friend Keno.
Yep.
He said,
Keno Wright.
Yeah, Keno Wright. He said to me one day, he's like, put an auto in it. I was like, no, that's so lame. He's like, put an auto in it. I promise you'll love it. And
Yeah.
I fought it for a year, and then one day he sent me an ad for an auto car, running, driving, 96 auto Talon.
Yeah.
Sent the ad. It was $1,000. It was outside of Red Deer here, and I went and looked at it. It was rotted strip towers. It was in bad shape, but it was a good running, driving car. So I took the car, brought it home, and over the course of a few months, I did an auto swap. I was going to try to do the TCU. I was going to try to make it so that it would drive like an auto car, but you could run a shift box to up line pressures and make faster shifts and that stuff. But once I got into the wiring mess of putting TCU in, I said enough of all that. So I just went with a little shift box, and it's like 4 wires to control the transmission. It's a mix of stuff between 1G, 2G auto, and 2G manual axles. It was a bit of a mess to get it all together, but thankfully people had done it before me, so I had a fairly decent path to follow. And I think at the time, the fastest the car had ever gone with this 5-speed standard was like a 12.2. And that was
That's pretty good.
30 pounds of boost or
Yeah.
35 pounds of boost.
Like 120 mile an hour or 100?
Yeah, no, 118.
118.
Fastest it
Yeah.
had trapped, and then 60 foots were in like the 1.6s, like nothing special. And then maybe not even, maybe 1.7s for the 60 foots. And I put the auto in it on the same tune, same boost. Like, I never even sent a data log off or looked at a data log. I just sent it on the auto, and it went a full second faster. Like 11.2, 120, I think it picked up some mile an hour.
That's strong.
It was,
Yeah.
and I was like, ooh, this is fun.
Yeah.
At that time, I built a little manual paddle shifter that just ran off the shift box. It was just micro switches. I used the clock spring wiring in the car, so I used the cruise control wiring that was already existing and just converted it to run paddle shifters instead. And it was fun. I was like, this is pretty sweet. So I started pushing the platform with the autos, completely bone stock, untouched auto. Had a shift kit, so I guess kind of touched, but shift kit and a shift box to control it. And that brought me all the way up into like 10.1. With 10.1,
Really? On a stock trans?
unopened transmission.
Yeah.
Nothing but the shift kits, and they seem to hold up pretty good. The only reason that one died was, well, let's just keep it simple. It was something I did wrong. I killed that transmission.
Yeah.
Put a build transmission. A build transmission in. It was basically a stock with upgraded clutches.
Yeah.
That's all they really do to it now, and that's still what I'm on.
Yeah.
It's a stock transmission. It's got some clutches, some Kegley clutches in it. It's got a shift kit, and it's got billet transfer gears because that's the kind of the weak point on those autos, and that's really it.
And you probably, you said you were damaging the center diff before.
Yeah.
Transfer cases were doing okay for you before?
Transfer cases were all right as long as you kept them full of fluid.
Yeah.
They like to leak out of the shaft there, but they were usually pretty good.
The auto's a lot more gentle on the mechanical parts.
Yeah, I mean,
So
I went mid-9s on a completely stock one on a heavy car.
Yeah.
And I finally upgraded drive shaft and transfer case a little bit. But the transfer cases on the auto seemed to, like, even axles, rear diff, everything was still stock in that car.
Yeah.
Even though I switched from manual to auto, I still kept all stock everything.
yeah.
Up until this current build that's not even done yet, it was still stock diff, stock axles, upgraded drive shaft, upgraded transfer case, mostly stock auto. So
That's impressive. Like the Subaru, I thought about going auto with it too at one point. I just at a few points I thought about it because we had the Corolla back when we first started the shop, and it was turbo 400.
oh, cool.
And we ran, I think Floyd's best pass with that ended up being like a 9.3 at 151 or something like that.
I I didn't realize. I know the car that's like the Lightning car.
Yeah.
Yeah. I knew that car. I didn't know you guys were.
Yeah. So that was like kind of how we started the shop. Floyd had been building that car. And then Roy and I helped wire an ECU into it with him.
Okay.
And then I tuned it. And then it wasn't long after we started the shop, and we ended up doing the motor in it. And while he still lived in Alberta, I think we ran a 9.7 with it, or 9.6 or 9.7 at like 145, I think, with it. Nice. But having the auto in it was really nice. And I mean, at the time, I was a very junior tuner, and there was a lot of things I didn't understand about the way the tire works and feeding. I learned a lot over the years, and I did end up helping him with that remotely when he was in Ontario, and we did run, like I said, I think a 9.3 at 151 or something with it, with some attention to the 60 foot and stuff.
Right.
Things we learned on our Supra, right? But having something automatic, not breaking something all the time, like a stick shift car is cool.
It is.
Like,
it's way cool.
it's super cool,
Yeah.
and I think of the videos of watching, 1,000 horsepower plus Supras back in the day, and GTRs, and it wasn't until more recently you start seeing the Subarus and the Evos and stuff doing that. Because back in those days, they didn't go as hard as the Supras and GTRs and stuff. But now they got, guys that are running low 8s and into the 7s with stick shift, Subarus and Evos and DSMs and stuff, right? They're all over the track. But yeah, it's expensive. Now, Turbo 400 is awesome because it's super reliable. You put it in, you make sure it's got a nice strong rear diff, and all you have to worry about is making sure the engine's healthy.
Yeah.
And feeding it the power just the right point. And when it comes up on the trans brake, you're going to put it at this boost and this RPM, or obviously some of that's related to the converter, and you play with the converter and figure that out. But you can get it so at 60 foot's just like the same every time.
Yeah.
And a stick shift car, like if you break something every other hit or every 3 hits, and you're trying to use your left foot, and maybe you're getting better at it, and you've got some good 60 foots, but you get just a little bit wrong, and you've got a 17-inch wheel with a drag radial that's this thick and dead hooks, and you just feel it. You feel your foot come up that extra 6 millimeters, and you feel the clutch bite, and something breaks, and it's your fault, But nothing's strong enough, right? And the auto's just a little gentler on everything. The Supra was the same thing. It was Turbo 400. When Kyle had it with us, we did the Turbo 400 and a 48.8 in the back. And all we had to worry about was, like, every pass the car would get faster.
Yeah.
We'd take it out, it would do a 153 60 foot. The next pass would be a 149 60 foot, and then a 145. And then it would knock the tires off, and I'd go, well, maybe if we gave it a little more boost and a little less timing, fed it in like this, and you try that. Okay, that works a little bit better. You do a slow-mo camera on the tire. You watch the tire wrinkle, and you're watching what it does, and you're watching how the anti-squat does. But every single time, you just change the tune a little bit, and you can see how that's made that little bit of a difference. So it's so much better for fine-tuning. And with the Subaru stuff, what makes sense for me as a business owner is engine development, right? If somebody comes to me and says, I want to make X amount of power, it's like, well, this is how I'm going to do it. I don't learn anything from blowing up, from breaking 7 axles. Right. No learning happening there.
Seen you do it though.
Yes. So there's definitely an appeal to it, but on the Subaru stuff, you can't run a stock trans. A built 4EAT that's going to run 8s is a $15,000 transmission.
That's
big money.
Kind of a deal breaker for most guys.
Yeah. Whereas, I ran pretty quick with my car on a stock 6-speed that I got for $1,000 that had a damaged reverse gear.
And that's what's right now?
No, now it's a factory 6-speed now, but it's a factory reman.
Okay.
So it's still pretty budget and nothing fancy.
Yeah.
but it definitely has a little happier third-year synchros in it than the last couple of gearboxes I threw in
Right.
the budget ones.
I think if you really look at when I was building my car, switching from the standard to the automatic is when it really opened up my eyes to like going actually fast and
Yeah.
quick. Like I knew that when I started this build, I said I wanted a 10-second street car on pump gas and meth.
Yeah.
At the time, it was running an EM meth injection kit, a lot of meth, and 91 from Shell, like 35 to 37 pounds of boost all the time, and it was pretty happy.
Yep.
And it would, at that, it would run mid-high 10s pretty consistently. And then I started sprinkling a little race gas, and it would go bottom 10s. And then once I saw times that said 10-1, I'm like, that's pretty close to a 9.
Yeah.
You know, the car was completely built around a 10-second. Everything was maxed out at that 600-ish horsepower that it took to go 10-1.
At what mile an hour?
123, so not even much.
Yep.
Yeah. And then, so yeah, I was like, it was maxed out. So then when it's like, well, maybe I should go for a 9, it was new turbo, new fuel system, completely top to bottom, and headwork and cams, and like the whole thing kind of changed. I was running a 2.3 liter stroker at the time. There was not a lot of people pushing the strokers because they don't like to rev as much.
Yeah.
The longer stroke of the crank, they don't like RPM.
But with the auto, it helps you come up on the converter pattern.
It did. I missed the stroker for coming up on the converter. I didn't have to use nitrous back then. Now I'm on a little bit of nitrous to spool it on the 2 liter. But it was fast. It was fast and fun at that 600 horsepower train. That was on a Wholesale HX 40, billet wheel, 60 millimeter, and 38 pounds of boost, I think is what it took to go 10-1. And that was with Q16 in the tank. Yeah, among that. And 17-inch drag radials, like TL5Rs on it, big, heavy 17-inch, 9-inch wide wheels.
Yep.
Hold on 1 second. Oh, yeah.
So you're running a 17-inch drag radial.
Yeah. Hard on parts.
Yep.
Yeah.
Even with the auto, did you break parts?
No, I guess it was just the manual, really. The most that I ever broke at that power level with those drag radials was it would like to twist up the yoke on the drive shaft, so it would just get jammed on the transfer case. I remember having to hammer my transfer cases off, and it would start to twist, and it would crack the little weld plug in the end of the yoke, and it would start leaking. Like it looked like it was leaking out of the U-joint on the end of the drive shaft, but it was coming through the center of the yoke and then out the U-joint, and it was
really
a weird thing. But once I saw it leak out of there, I knew it was time for another drive shaft. And at that time, I was just taking rusty old junkyard drive shafts and throwing it in there because all of the U-joints that you could get for replacements were cross-drilled for greasing, and they would just snap immediately. Okay. So even a worn-out, old, or seized-up OEM Mitsubishi one was holding up better than the aftermarket parts ones that had the cross-drill in them. And I couldn't get any OEM ones. I couldn't find any that were drilled, and the only way to get around that was going to GM-style ones on the drive shaft that I have now.
Yeah, like a 1310 U-joint.
Yes, exactly. And I would take I remember there was a Didsbury, we were having 100-foot drags, and I had my drive shaft out. I'm thinking, oh man, these U-joints aren't good. I'll change them. I changed all three and put the cross-drilled ones in there. I thought it'll be fine. And I did one soft pass, and it was okay, and then I leaned on it pretty hard, and I broke 3 out of 3 in the drive shaft.
No way.
Yeah, and picture me holding the front section of my drive shaft. It came shooting out from underneath the car, underneath of a Hellcat that was next to me. And thankfully, that didn't hit him. And then when I got home and looked at the rest of the drive shaft, the other ones were broken as well. So I said, enough of that. Then bought a good drive shaft with 300M output shaft on the transfer case, bigger yoke.
So what was it doing for an 8th mile when it was doing 10-1 at 123?
Oh, I have to try to remember.
Like that's for 123 mile an hour. That's pretty strong.
Yeah, I think it was doing high 6s. Like it wasn't. I mean, it wasn't amazing, but it was all in the front half.
Yeah,
it was definitely front half.
Yeah, like
it would lay over in the back. Never really made enough power to to really feel like it was pulling hard.
So then you made the jump from everything built for 10s to everything built for 9s. And you changed every single part of the car.
Yeah.
And you went with the motor.
Yeah, went into the white, so I swapped out the 2.3 liter stroker, sold that to a good friend up here, and then built a 3/4 filled 2 liter aluminum rod, standard stroke, still low compression, still 8.5-to-1 compression. I like keeping lower compression because it can make up for it with boost.
Do you still run it on pump gas ever?
It was on pump gas at first.
Yeah.
It still ran gas. At that time, I ended up switching to the fuse unleaded.
Yeah.
116.
Yeah.
And it was expensive. That stuff, it's cheaper than Q16, but it was still expensive. So I run the car on pump gas, and then when it was ready for the track, I would put the unleaded 116 in it.
Yeah.
And I would just turn it up. It didn't really change much with the tune. I would just put some more boost in it.
Yeah.
A little bit more timing. And not having a really good tuning background, I mean, I could go into my stock ECU and I could use the sliders, the slider tabs. I could use those to put a degree or two extra in. I felt safe enough doing that, but thankfully I've got a good guy in my corner.
So now this car is being tuned on
still stock ECU.
with what?
It's ECM link.
ECM link? Yeah.
ECM link, yeah. So it's a socketed stock ECU, and you don't have very many inputs and outputs. Everything that you're stealing from somewhere else.
Yeah.
And the ECU is controlling nitrous now. It's controlling turning on and off my accessory fuel pumps. But that's pretty much all they can do in terms of electronics. The car's pretty well maxed out until you go to something standalone. But
and you're trying to be the fastest stock ECU DSM in the world.
yeah, so there's some records for the 1G cars, 1G auto, 1G stick, 2G auto, 2G stick, and so and front wheel drive and all wheel drive. There's a bunch of micro records if you really want to get into it. The guy who's helping me tune the car now, Kenny Klein, just the tune is his company, and he's been instrumental in the development of the car, and also just the tuning side of it. Some of the tech support, he's really helped me out a lot. He holds all the other records for 1G, front wheel drive, all wheel drive, auto, standards, except for
His cars or customer
cars. Yeah, so he's on the keyboard for a bunch of those other cars. So my car being a 2G auto all-wheel drive is the last one he needs to get. To get that record, I'd have to go 8.6, mid 150s.
Yeah.
So I got that target in mind this year. That's what I'm building the car to get. And I think that'll be the last step with this stock ECU life. It's hard.
Yeah.
It's hard.
Yeah.
I need more data to be able to start pushing things even harder. And so, like, if I wanted to say log EMAP, I have to steal like my fuel pressure sensor.
Yeah.
And use that input. If I want to do stuff like that.
Or run an additional logger, which at that point takes up an ECU.
Exactly. I'm not willing to spend a bunch of money on accessory stuff until I'm ready to just bite the bullet and put something else in the car.
Yeah.
But I want to get that record. He came on board tuning as a sponsorship deal, and he says, hey, if you let me use your car to get this record, he says, I'll tune it for free. Yeah. And he's also helped with kind of planning the build path for me to get there. When I started thinking about the switch from gas to ethanol, and then from a 10-second fuel system to a mid 8-second fuel system, he was my guy. I called him up and I said, hey, Kenny, what do I got to do? And he's like, check your email. And I look in there, and there's a whole fuel system built out, ready to go, and an invoice attached to it. And as much as it hurts, I just said, buy it now, because he's there to help me. And if I don't give him the car to do it, then neither of us are going to be successful. And it's been a good move. He's pretty much nailed everything that he's had to help. In terms of the parts list that he's had to help me source, it's always been what I needed. I never had to do anything twice.
Yep.
And that's what's getting really expensive.
A 10-second 4-cylinder car is good fun.
Yeah.
And it's pretty quick.
Yeah.
And it's pretty easy to go, I just need another couple hundred horsepower or another few hundred horsepower. And this thing will be a lot faster, Yeah. And there's a big difference, though. When you start being 150, 160 mile an hour versus 125, 130 mile an hour, I know for my car, I never had any issues with the fuel system when it ran 10s. And it was very similar fuel system to what I had when with my 9.1, really.
Yep.
But actually, I think I ran mid-9s, I think, with the same fuel system pretty much.
Right.
But the car pulls 1G at 200 kilometers an hour now. Or 1.1, I think is what I've seen.
Yeah.
And fuel slosh becomes way more of an issue. And all of a sudden, your fuel pressure looks fine, and in the top of third gear, your fuel pressure goes whoosh. Then you shift fourth gear, and it looks fine for 1,500 RPM, and then it goes like this because all your fuel goes right into the back of the tank like this. So if you've got someone in your corner that has been there and knows what to do, it makes things easier.
Yeah. When you're running 50 pounds of boost, a little dip in your fuel pressure.
Yes.
You got ECU corrections to help take care of that stuff and enough injector duty headroom to take care of all of it.
The injector duty headroom was my issue.
Yeah. Oh, that's it?
Yeah.
I didn't quite have the space.
Yeah, I think I was 113% duty cycle or something like that on my 2600s. I have the compensation. I mean, last year I was running a different fuel system. Didn't really have that issue anymore. I just turned it up a little bit more, and then the pump wouldn't keep up. So
what 2600s are in there?
ID 2600s.
Okay, that's what I just bought.
Yep.
They're in a box still. I haven't put them in the car yet.
Yeah. So 2 years ago, I had an issue with my third gear synchros, and I think we did a 9.7 or something at 157 mile an hour.
Okay. Strong mile an hour.
With issues with the fuel pressure dropping off and stuff because of fuel starvation. So then I did a fuel cell and blocked off the trunk, and I did a Fuel Lab 1800 fuel pump, brushless on 16 volts. And MAP said that it should be at least as good or better than my 525 and 535 that I was running before.
Okay.
But it didn't like the additional fuel pressure that I was trying to run through it. So as soon as I went up north of 40 pounds of boost, the fuel pressure started falling off.
What was your base fuel pressure?
I'd have to check. I think they started out at 55 or 58 PSI.
Yeah, okay.
And then I turned it up a little bit more after that, and the pump wouldn't keep up.
Yeah, so I usually run 43, 44 pounds base, and then I've been up to 50 pounds boost on top, so your fuel system needs to keep up with about 100 PSI.
Yep.
I was stretching 2150s last year.
Yep.
So I went up to 55 PSI base fuel pressure and 55 pounds of boost, and that's sort of where those Hellcat pumps like to taper off.
Yep.
Around that 100 or 110 pounds of fuel pressure. They seem to like it beyond there. So I went with the bigger injectors this year. Same thing as you, the ID 2600s. That's from Kenny. He sent me, and I'm like, whoo. Price tag, that's for sure. But I've heard they work pretty good, and that's the maximum that I can run on stock ECU stuff.
Yeah.
Fuel injector clinic just came up with those 3000s.
Yeah, but they're a low impedance.
Yeah, I need ECU to drive home. And my stock stuff won't handle that.
Yeah.
So, at that point, you're talking maybe dual rails, 8 injectors on the 4-cylinder stuff.
Yep.
Same thing, stock ECU.
Or you could go mechanical pump.
Yeah, mechanical.
Right? That's what I'm doing this year to stretch my 26. Yeah, my 2600s. Because I think I was 87% injector duty cycle on like 42 pounds.
Really?
On my 76 mil turbo.
Is that, were you on E98 or were you?
I was on C85.
Oh, okay, so it's not 85% ethanol.
Yeah, but it's oxygenated. So it'll take about 4% more fuel.
Right.
At the same boost, something like 4 or 5%, I think. 5%, something in that range. I know that I changed my turbine housing and I changed my C85 and nothing else, and it picked up about 60 wheel horsepower.
Nice.
At slightly less boost.
Went bigger on the turbine housing?
Yeah. I went from a 0.82 to a 0.96, I believe it was.
Wow. Still small though.
Yeah.
That's a 2 liter.
2.5 liter.
2.5.
Yeah.
Do you get a lot of exhaust back pressure?
It's not too bad. So on 40, basically I'm about 1.2 to 1 at 90, 200 RPM.
Yeah.
But I'm close, I'm pretty close to 1 to 1 at 8,600 RPM. Like up to 85, 86, and then my back pressure starts to climb up a lot.
Yeah, you start fighting the boost.
Yeah. And I mean, my duty cycle, same sort of thing. My wastegate duty cycle, fairly flat, and then it goes whoosh,
Yeah.
And I know it would make more power on this turbo. It's got a bit more in it.
Yeah.
Maybe not much at our altitude.
Yeah. That's the thing, right?
Yeah.
Being at the altitude around here, I run a lot of boost in my car.
Yeah.
And I sometimes feel like it should go faster for the amount of boost and power I think I'm putting through it. But,
Yep.
3,000 plus is not uncommon.
Yeah.
For the DA around here.
Yeah, and the pressure ratio goes out the window, right? Like for us, 90 kPa atmospheric, if you're running a pressure ratio of 4 at sea level, that's 45 pounds of boost.
Yeah.
The same compressor wheel speed at our altitude doesn't get you 45 pounds of boost. It gets you, what would that be, about 35 pounds of boost at the same compressor wheel speed. And you'll find you'll make more exhaust back pressure, like a lot more exhaust back pressure at the same boost pressure. So even at 35 pounds of boost at the same wheel speed, chances are you've got similar back pressure. But Nick would be the guy to chat to about that. He'd be able to give you all the data, right?
Yeah, he's another guy who came in my corner, not last year, the car never made it out last year, but the year before.
Yep.
I think it was probably 2 days after I bought a Precision 6870
Yep.
Gen 2. I was ready to throw that on. He reached out and he's like, hey, I'll be looking to develop some 4-cylinder line of turbos. If you're willing to help me, I'll help you. And so we struck out a deal, and I ended up with one of his True North Turbo 72 mil Borborn based deals. We went through a couple of revisions of the hot side stuff last year. I keep saying last year, but
Year before.
year before. Last year the car was out.
Yeah.
Did some hot side changes a couple of times, and we're starting to get it dialed in. I think it needs more AR, a little more turbine wheel now. So he's got something in the works for me for that. But he's been very helpful, and that's been a big thing.
Yeah.
Somebody like Nick who knows the turbo side of things really good. I just call him and say, hey, it's doing this, or I can't stall it up, or it needs a lot of nitrous. And the first thing he asks for is data. And I'm like, can't give you any data because I'm on stock ECU. And so for me, what I did, so he's like, well, you're kind of making this hard for me. And I knew that I was, so I wired up just a mechanical boost gauge. I plugged it into the manifold. I pulled off the 2 wastegate runners on my exhaust manifold. I teed them together, and I put a big old copper coil loop in there, and then a boost gauge going to my car, and I'm running down the track. At the end of the last season that I was racing, I'm doing 140 plus miles an hour, trying to look at an exhaust back.
You need
exhaust back
to
pressure
for
for
data
data.
logging.
I really do, because when you're going that fast in the car that you built in your garage, you need to be paying attention. You look down and see what you're at for back pressure, and you're like, oh, it's a lot of back pressure. Like at 50 pounds of boost, it was a peg to 60 psi gauge, so it was getting up there. So, and he could only do what he could only work with the information that I was giving him at the time. It wasn't a lot. So once I put that gauge in, took it to the track, ran my best time ever. And realized, it's that was 100% duty on the wastegate, and that was everything turned out as much as it would go. And if it made 60 pounds, I was fine with it. If it broke on 60 pounds, I was fine with it. It was the last pass of the day, so just put it all in and see what it would go. Ended up with a 917 at 149.9. That was a personal best for me at the time. It was good enough for the Alberta record. And then
Fastest 4-cylinder in Alberta.
Fastest 4-cylinder in Alberta. Not the quickest. You still held the quickest at that time. And then when the car's working good, might as well tear it all apart. So that's what happened to me last year. I had the thing all together. It was running good. And ended up having some engine problems that I didn't realize until I started taking it apart for upgrading. But it was a setup car, good to go. And then I tore it all apart. And one thing led to another, and I got into it to get it finished for last year. And then that's when you came back and took the ET record back from me.
Yep.
It's close though.
Yep. Oh yeah.
I'm coming back for it.
So you're not the first talent to be the quickest four-cylinder in Alberta either.
Yeah.
So years ago, when we had the Corolla, we wanted it to be the fastest four-cylinder in Alberta. And Ron Korolak had the fastest four-cylinder in Alberta. I think he'd run like a 9.5 at 145 or 147 or something in that range.
Yeah, 954. I think it might have been at 150.
Maybe.
It was a fast car. I never actually saw it.
Yeah.
We'd go out to the track, and fast four cylinders that I would see, Dario had a Pinto that was just into the 9s.
Yeah.
And it was, I think it was a Glide or Turbo 400 behind it. And
I'll see if we get a couple minutes there. Okay. All right. So
Ron Korolak.
Ron had his car, Dario had his, and we had the Corolla. And I remember Dario's car running like a 9.9 or something. It was pretty quick, but we never quite beat up Ron's time. Not until Floyd had moved back to Ontario, and then you're at sea level, so it's cheating, right?
Yeah. And now you're out of province.
Yeah, it doesn't count anymore, right?
It doesn't count.
But with my car, I was like, well, I just want to be the fastest four-cylinder in Alberta, and did it on an ultra budget as well, with many parts that should never have run 10s really.
Yeah.
And then thought, well, fastest four-cylinder isn't that far away. Doesn't need that much more, and I should be able to do that, right? And then, of course, you went faster by a good chunk, so then I had to step it up a little bit.
Yeah, I think I was kind of surprised the first time the car went to 9. My first 9-second pass went 9:47.
Yeah.
I don't even remember the mile an hour. Maybe 143 wasn't too high. And that was in Medicine Hat. I was just testing. Didn't have all the power in it, but
Yeah.
it was the first time the 60-foots got into the 1.4s. I still kind of take it easy on the drivetrain because it's all stock axles and everything. I was leaning on the 60-foot too hard. 1.47 60-foot, and then it went 9.4.
That's pretty good for stock axles.
Felt good to me. And then I had a wise by like a slick on the car at that point now, and it was definitely to put a little more confidence in.
Does it paddle?
It does if I have the tire pressure too low.
Yeah.
Yeah. Initially, I was thinking, lower was better. And start low and go lower if you need to. And I think at 12 pounds in those tires, it would paddle and shake, and it was pretty bad. And then I talked to some people, and they said, "No, it should be like 15, 16."
Yeah.
And so after I went up on pressure, it drives nice.
Yeah.
It doesn't paddle the tire.
Yeah.
Leaves pretty good.
Is that a QuickTime Pro or what?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so we're same tire. Yeah. Yeah, I run 16 in my fronts, and then I run a little bit more in the back.
Okay.
Just so it can slip a little bit.
Yeah.
Like in hopes that it keeps things from breaking.
Right.
I have the rear axles now, but I'm still stock diff and stock drive shaft and stock front axle, and if it's got a little bit of a slip,
Yeah. I think I got lucky the way that my car was set up at first. Like, it's a welded center diff, so it's 50-50 front and rear.
Yep.
And stock rear diff, and the rear diff was open, so it wasn't limited slip. It didn't put a lot of power.
All right, we're back. Battery died, so probably forget where we're at. But
That's all right.
let's wrap it up because we're pretty much out of battery.
Okay. Sounds good.
Let's just kind of get the rundown on the build for your car. 97, you said?
Yep.
Yeah.
Sorry, 98.
98.
Yep, okay, 98.
98. How much does it weigh?
Last year with me in it, last time it was out with me in it, it's 3150.
Oh yeah, it's reasonably hefty.
Yeah, it's still got some weight to it. Everyone thinks it's lighter than it is, but it's Semi-gutted. It's got a little bit of carbon fiber, but still carpet in it. Still had a full dash. Tried to have some creature comforts.
Heater core.
Heater core was still in it at that.
Yep.
So,
Okay.
it's heavier than people thought, for sure.
2 liter.
2 liter. Yep. Was a 3/4 filled 2 liter.
Yep.
150 mil rod, standard stroke. Going to a full fill now, so get a little more towards the drag side of things. So it'll be a fully filled block now.
Compression ratio.
8.5 to 1, Wiseco HD. It's just an off-the-shelf deal. 22 millimeter wrist pins, heavy wrist pins.
Is your new motor going to be the same compression?
Yeah, same compression. Yeah.
What camshafts are you running?
I'll be on GSC S2s. Yep, coming up. I've been in Kelford, living, ride or die with Kelford over the years, and I've loved them. I've been 272s, 280s, 288s with Kelfords.
Yep.
But I'm starting to realize with the bigger turbo, automatic stuff, I was sacrificing too much download torque to get it to efficiently spool the turbo. So I'm going with a little bit more of a mild cam this year.
Yep.
And GSC S2s are where I'm at for that.
Yep. I'm going to have to scrap this out of the video because I'm ride or die Kelford.
Oh, yes, I was too, but I can't say a single bad thing about my Kelford cams over the years. My 272s, I think, were the best cams I ever had.
Yep.
Those were great.
Yeah, I got the Kelford 280s in my car, and they're awesome. But anyways, valve springs.
Yeah, Supertech duals.
How are you keeping the head on it?
AirPL 19s, just your standard 12 millimeter L19. Lots of torque.
Yep.
Yeah.
Copper gasket, O-ring block.
Yep. So it's a O-ring block, copper gasket.
Yep.
With a receiver groove in the head.
Yep. When you take the head off, how does the receiver groove in your head look? Looks fine still?
Yeah.
Yeah, it doesn't deform it at all?
Yeah, it doesn't look like it's walking around at all.
Yeah.
The copper gaskets, definitely you can see a little bit of movement there, but the copper gasket itself seems to do a pretty good job of holding everything together.
And no issues with coolant pressure or anything that you're aware of?
After I cracked the block,
Yeah.
I was getting a lot of coolant pressure.
Yeah.
I kind of pushed my way through that one last season, but not anymore.
Intake manifold.
JM Fabrications, drag, their own sheet metal intake manifold style. I was running an S90 throttle body, and now we're switching to an RMR 90 millimeter. Nice billet unit there, 3.5 inch inlet.
Fuel injectors. Your 2150s?
Yep, I was on FIC 2150s. They were good. I had to stretch them with a little bit of base fuel pressure. Switching to the ID 2600s for this season coming up.
Yep. And dual Hellcat pumps?
Yeah, so it was a 525 running full time in the tank. With a 535 kicking on it boost. And then now I've got a surge tank in there. I've thrown 2 535s in there that'll come on with boost. Still running full time on the 525. So it's a surge tank with three pumps in it.
Okay. Exhaust manifold.
The exhaust manifold is a divided T4 JM Fabrications, and I bought that a couple years back. I ran some open T4 stuff and some twin scroll T4 stuff.
Yep.
Right now I'm on a twin scroll T4, a turbo built by True North Turbos. They helped me out with that.
Yep.
I love the guy. He's been really good. And then bolted to that is a FL Speedfat 4-inch downpipe. He came on board and helped with a lot of the fabrication work, intercooler, piping, exhaust stuff, wastegate dumps, all that stuff's built by FL Speedfat. The guys,
Yep.
the guys been really good to me.
What turbine wheels on your turbo? Your 72 millimeter compressor, you said?
Yeah, secrets. I don't know.
Secrets.
Yeah.
You don't know, or it's a secret?
No, I don't even know. The last revision, Nick just wanted to try something a little out of the ordinary. I know I had a lot of that exhaust back pressure at the end of the last season.
Yeah.
I sent it back to him. He sent it back to me, and he said it's bigger, like 10 millimeters bigger than the one before, the turbine, and the AR is a secret. So we'll see.
Yeah.
I think it's something he just wanted to try. But
Yeah.
I did a spool test. Like the car never made it out after last year, but I did a spool test, and it spooled the same. So it's got a 10 millimeter bigger turbine, and I'm not sure what he did with the AR.
Yep.
And it spooled as good. I think that'll help.
Yep.
free up some boost.
And you're running
top end.
nitrous to spool it?
Nitrous to spool,
Like
75 shot.
75 shot, yeah.
Yeah, just a dry 75.
And your converter, what's your converter?
It's a Precision Industries number 6 converter.
Yep.
And it's been good to me.
Yep.
A lot of guys are having trouble with them right now. So
Yep.
hopefully mine is one of the good ones.
Good. If you get a shake, you might have to take your converter apart.
Yeah.
That's what I ran into. I find you have to run such a loose converter on a 4-cylinder. It's easy to tear them up.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden the thing will start getting a little bit of a shake or doing something funny. If you open up the converter, it's torn a bunch of the fins off.
I had 5 or 6 converters on this setup trying to get it right. It's really hard because these 4-cylinders don't make. You need RPM to make boost. You need boost to make power, but it won't make enough RPM to start making the boost to start making the power to get more RPM. So that's where the nitrous comes in. But having nitrous like power adders sometimes comes at a cost for the classes that you want to race in. So getting that perfect has been tough, and that's where having a guy like Nick at True North to help with the turbo sizing has been really helpful.
So do you run nitrous out of the 60-foot?
I've done both. I've done it to spool, and I've done it to the 60-foot. I've only ever sprayed through first gear. I've sprayed much more than that. It's just been mostly to light the turbo. That's where I needed the most.
I know with the Supra, the converter was too tight. So if you only use the nitrous to spool it, you let go of the trans brake, and if you, you had to keep a certain amount of timing out of it to let the tire hook.
Right.
And by the time the car started moving out, the RPM would actually come back down again. So we ended up running 100 shot on it. We got it out through first gear, so it will stay up with the converter. And so, but yours will stay up fine on the converter.
Yeah, so
I just shut off.
Running ECM Link, they've got a fuel cut 2-step.
Yep.
And it's not good to spray in a fuel cut 2-step.
Yep.
So I was using nitrous to spool it. It would shut off just before the 2-step, and it would stay on the 2-step and make boost. I'd recently switched to a Dynatech Arc 2, and I'm using their ignition cut 2-step now, so I can spray right through the ignition cut 2-step, and then I try running it through the 60. That's what got me my best 60-foot.
Nice.
Not a lot of nitrous, but it's a good help.
And through. What was your best 60-foot?
140 was my best
140.
60-foot.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
Yeah, it felt pretty good.
Air cooler.
I was on a 4-inch core that was a ETS super street, super short is what they call it, super short piping. I'm switching now to a 6-inch air cooler. Big guy for I'm trying to do everything for the very last time this time, so big 6-inch personality air cooler now.
Is your trans Busher or Shep or
none of the above?
You just what is your trans?
So it is a stock-ish trans.
Yeah.
I say stock-ish because it just has Kegley 5 friction disc.
Okay, we're still good.
Okay, good. It's got a Kegley 5 friction clutch pack in it.
Yep.
It's got billet transfer Liberty gears, billet transfer gears in it, and then a shift kit.
Did you build it yourself?
Everything else. That transmission came with the clutches in it, and I tore it all down and put the Liberty straight cut transfer gears in it. And that was as deep as I've ever been in transmission. It was pretty all straight at that point. So I'd like to say that I built it myself because the whole thing was practically apart. But
QuickTime Pros, 26 by 8.5.
Yeah, 26 by 8s.
26 by 8.
Yeah. On some Rota slipstreams, some 7-inch Rota slipstreams. Nothing special.
Yep.
Cheap and easy.
16-inch or 15-inch? 15-inch Rota slipstreams.
Yeah.
All right. I think that's probably good. Pretty good rundown of the car. And your best pass again is
917 at 149.9.
917 at 149.9.
Yeah, my goal is to break cert on that roll cage.
Yep.
That FL Speed Fat roll cage. He came on board last year too. Put in that 10 point for me. And yeah, it's a really nice piece. He had done a couple roll cages before that. He reached out and he said, "Hey, I heard you're looking for a cage. He said, if you're not in a rush, he said, I'd like to do it. So I brought in 3 20-foot or 22-foot sticks of chromoly and picked up the car about a month and a half later within a 10.850 cert. Had no problems getting certified. He did a really nice job.
Nice.
So he's done the roll cage, done the exhaust, a bunch of intercooler piping, custom catch can. Really anytime I need something welded up, I can take NFL Speed Fab and he hooks me up.
Yep. Yeah, it's good to have a good fab guy.
Yeah. I got the vision to what I want to get done, and sometimes I'll tape something together in cardboard, and I say, okay, here, make it out of aluminum for me. And he's done wonders for me over the years. I'm just trying to put something together that is going to be fairly reliable, quick enough, not spend too much money, because it's all about keeping things out of budget, and to outrun your Subaru and Dario Civic. That's my
Yeah. Well, I think you're doing a bit more work this year than I am.
Yeah.
But, in theory, my car should be a little bit faster. I know in theory yours should be a chunk faster.
Yeah.
So hopefully Dario will get out. I'm sure he will. And
I'm sure.
It'd be cool if the three of us could get out at the same time for the same event or something this year and how it go, because I'm pretty sure Dario's quicker than, has the potential to be quicker than both of us.
Oh yeah.
It just hasn't had everything line up yet,
Once the stars all align and that car makes it get passed on the track, you and I are both gonna have our work cut out for us.
Yeah. People, people who haven't gone fast with a stick shift car or a 4-cylinder car, it's easy to say your car should be a certain speed. It's another thing to go to the track and do it. Because you can go to the track and you can get rained out. You can go to the track and you can break your rear diff on the first pass. You can go to the track and it's pretty easy to run your car down the track a handful of times and not have it work to its potential, right? And find out you've got a little issue with your trans or whatever it might be. And then, you don't always get the repeatable passes, which is, like I said, with your auto, that's a real benefit for sure.
Yeah. Then you get an electronics problem or something.
Yeah.
Last year, 2 years ago, Medicine Hat, the car was running good qualifying, both two classes in qualifying. I was in a class where I was totally outgunned, but I had a good first draw.
Yeah.
And I went out there on the 2-step, let go of the brake, and the car just drives down the track. No power at all. I don't know. I couldn't figure out what it was. I went back to the pits. I opened up the laptop and look, and for some reason I fat fingered the boost table, and it was on 0% the whole time. Ran down the track at 20 pounds on the wastegate.
Yeah.
Slow. And I watched the guy that I could have beat drive away from me.
Yeah, and a 72 millimeter turbo car on 20 pounds of boost. I mean, you'd be better off with a small turbo.
Oh yeah.
Getting out a little harder.
Unfortunately, that's where our second battery died, so that's about it that I got for recording, but hope you guys enjoyed, and looking forward to a good fun summer. Cheers.